In this video, I ranked manipulation tactics. This is in no way an endorsement of any of the things we're discussing today. Simply, a thought experiment. And some of you guys had some interesting commentary that changed my outlook on how good some of these are in effectiveness. This was streamed live at twitch.tv/Kwote, where usually I'd be live on a night like this, but I'm out of town right now. When I get back, I'll actually be reviewing submissions to the Pride Month fan art competition. If you're interested in entering, just make a piece under the prompt of, General Pride Month, and then post it on Twitter under the hashtag QuiteNice, which is my art tag in VTuber terms. Please use it, please use it. I'm trying to make it a thing. If you like this vid, this card at the end will take you to another one like it. And did you know only 20% of y'all are subscribed with notifications on? If you sub and hit the bell icon, you'll never miss an upload, and you can always undo it later. Here's what we got: gaslighting, guilt tripping, isolation, love bombing, playing the victim, threats or coercion, silent treatment, ghosting, shaming, triangulation, aggressive jokes, emotional blackmail, projection, smear campaigns, shifting the goalpost, changing the subject, playing on insecurities, fake moralization, and infantilization. Are there any ones that really stick out to y'all that are missing on here? Girl bossing, racism, bro, that's just like straight just being mean. Gaslighting is a really funny one as a bit, but here's the deal. Gaslighting requires a lot of effort and setup on the beginning. In the lead up to you gaslighting someone, you have to isolate them so completely that they cannot look up the truth or get the information from someone else. You have to isolate them. A lot of these manipulation tactics, to be most effective, rely on doing another of these manipulation tactics first. Where's grooming? That's just a crime, bro. Like, what do you... It's also very funny to gaslight your friends over inconsequential stuff, which doesn't require the long-term, like, prep that you have to do to actually effectively do it. Because of the setup you need, the amount of legwork that goes into it, I'm feeling a B tier on this. I think, conceptually, it's very funny. It's like, gaslighting's not real. You sound crazy. Who told you that? We gaslight Insomnia all the time. We do. I gaslight Stream all the time. It's great. You don't have to do any of that. You're crazy. See, I'm better at this than you. To give you an example, Drake really tried to gaslight us, and in a way, Kendrick. Drake was saying, you beat your wife, ha 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 ha, no proof. And then he just keeps saying it. But more importantly is like, one of your kids isn't yours. Like, no proof. But he just keeps going. I think B tier is about where it should be. Aggressive jokes? This is S tier. I'm not talking like genuinely harmful ones, but I love a white person says a word that sounds a little like something they shouldn't be saying, and it's clearly like not that, but oh my god, am I on their ass about it? Holy shit, so much fun. Oh my god. Like I said, we're taking the morality out of this. This is something you can pull out in social setting, in 1v1 interactions, in text. It doesn't require like setup, only you knowing the other person and things about them. Like, you can apply it to so many different like niches. Homophobic dog, perfect. It's like, this is up there. S tier. This is the one backdraw of this, is the group of people that you can actually pull this off on. There's a pipe bomb in your mailbox, there's anthrax in yours. Because of that, I think I'm gonna have to bump it down to A, now that I think about it a little more. Projection, to me, is a D tier, like, manipulation tactic. You don't really use projection to manipulate people often. It's usually some shit that gets said about people when they're caught being a hypocrite about criticisms they're making about other people. And if you are actively choosing to project onto someone problems you have intentionally in someone else's head, it can be immediately diffused by the fact that they might have seen you do that shit. To me, very weak. The way it gets brought up is not as a way that people manipulate people. It's talking about, it's a dig at someone else that they did this because, you have all these issues and can't come to terms with it. Smear campaigns? Mixed. It's not like projection where just across the board it's kind of trash, but it depends on the execution. Are you smearing someone for something that's true, that you have evidence for? Are you smearing them by your word alone? What are your connects like? It takes a lot. As someone, who's got their experience with that sort of thing, if the other person comes incorrect. Like, we talked Drake versus Kendrick. These are two people trying to smear each other's names. One was much better at it and was playing off publicly held, already entertained ideas in the public consciousness, beating down on things that there was a precedent for Drake having done already and extrapolating them. Drake was pulling shit out of nowhere. Kendrick is seen as very morally righteous. He's like, you beat your wife. Okay, no proof, except for like a 2014 thing where it was said that he beat a woman who wasn't his wife. The only proof is a security guard saying she heard something from somebody later that it was Kendrick or someone in his crew, and he's publicly denied it already. There's like nothing. And also one of your kids is Dave Freeze. It's a master, like somebody who goes in knowing what they're doing, out-strategize. Smear campaigns are like, they have some of the biggest potential to backfire, but they are probably the manipulation tactic that can do the most long-lasting damage to somebody's reputation. Yeah, I think this is B tier because the legwork is, to do it right, you gotta be committed to hating. Smear goes above gaslighting. I would say that too. Ghosting, I think it's a tier above C, because ghosting for some people is just removing somebody from your life. If it's like a permanent ghost, I don't really think it's a manipulation tactic. Sure, it might be like shitty given the context, but it's you actively cutting someone off, which might make them feel away, but you don't plan on interacting with them again, so to what end does that even serve? I think where it comes in as a manipulation tactic, periodic ghosting. String out how long you are going to reply to someone. Yeah, ghosting only works when paired with other tactics. It's not like one you can do forever. Like, ghosting working as a manipulation tactic relies on you actually responding down the line. By what metrics are we rating this? Not morality. C tier. C tier. Isolation. This is S tier. This is the bedrock that so many of these other manipulation tactics rely on. We're talking smear campaign. Make them feel like no one's on their side. We're talking gaslighting. Or, like, eliminate their ability to verify information or get alternate perspectives. This is player's guide on how to game. Goated manipulation tactic. Been there, been isolated. Sucks. Effective though. If we're talking Kendrick Drake, this is Kendrick did this. He put Drake in a position where all his major allies of the public were no longer by his side. Metro Boomin, The Weeknd, A$AP Rocky. It was everybody versus him. Made Drake feel like it was just him and his camp, and made him feel like he couldn't trust his own camp by saying he has a mole. How much experience do you have on field of being manipulated? Lots. Threats or coercion. I gotta be honest. I think threats or coercion could be incredibly effective. The issue with that is probably the manipulation tactic you have to be the least public about, and is the easiest to turn back on you if they find out you're doing it. You say you're gonna hurt someone if they don't do a certain thing. Everybody thinks you're the piece of shit for that if it ever leaks. Relies on the anonymity of you doing it. Do threats of hurting themselves count? I think so. Criteria. Was it used by Kendrick? Was it effective on Drake? True! Trigger warning for this. The threats of like self-harm is a little different where like you can, I think that ties a little into guilt tripping though. Threats, I mean to me more like if you don't do this, I will do this to you. Guilt tripping, I feel like the if you don't do this, I'll do this to myself type B. I'm saying I think threats or coercion are another B tier of how effective they can be, but their ability to blow out on you, you know? If you pair threats with isolation, then that's like S tier. Yeah, if we're talking combos, that's a whole different discussion. Changing the subject, I personally find this to be a D tier. Because sure, you can do it intentionally, but it has utility as in like contextual settings where you change the subject on a discussion that this is not the right place to have. To me, this is the most, like out of all the things here, changing the subject is a tool. And like after you do it a bunch, people pick up on it. Things can be mistaken for changing the subject that are completely innocent. I think D tier, very low. I don't rate it as a manipulation tactic very much. And it sounds like some people don't know the definition of love bombing, so let me pull this up for y'all real quick. Love bombing is an attempt to influence a person by demonstrations of attention and affection. It can be used in different ways and for either positive or negative purposes. Psychologists have identified love bombing as a part of a cycle of abuse. It has been described as psychological manipulation in order to create a feeling of unity within group. From what I understand, it mostly appears in cult formations, so maybe it can happen on one-on-one interactions, but all the information I see here like talks more about like making you feel part of the in-group before they extort you. I think it's very easy if you're like paranoid to mistake genuine signs of affection because of this kind of thing. I want to be very clear with y'all. People you're around probably actually like you. It happens one-on-one a lot, and it just gets tricky to identify there. S tier love bombing sounds terrifying to me. Yeah, and like here's the thing. I don't know if to mark it against it. I don't know if I should mark this against or for. It's so easy to confuse with genuine affection. The love bombing describes more a process and combination of a bunch of other manipulation tactics that make it a little difficult to judge on its own. Fake moralization. Let me get like a dictionary definition. Arguably a mirror of guilt tripping, I believe. If X were true, then Z would happen, thus X is false, where Z is morally, socially, or politically an undesirable thing. Do y'all take that to mean pretending to care about something you don't as a means to an end, to, like manipulate someone else, or do you take it to mean like the moralistic fallacy? I just like don't think it's very effective. I feel like something your opponent brings up against you more than anything else. It's not something a lot of people do normally, and it's like you get accused of virtue signaling, not actually caring. I think it's D tier. Wait, no, C tier, because there is some application. Rarely used as, like, I personally haven't seen it used intentionally very often. There's certainly like cases, but usually getting accused of it is the real like manipulation tactic where like, say you actually do care about a cause. Somebody who doesn't will say, you don't actually care about this. You're just doing it for X reason. Threats are B tier, but blackmail is S tier. I think what functions on the same mechanics though. Like something will happen to you if you don't do this. And that thing can be like a genuinely like horrible, awful thing somebody did. And with threats, it can be them just dying or getting whacked. The distinction I'll make with threats and coercion. Threats is like, I will just hurt you, which can be done to an innocent person. Blackmail can be a little more morally dubious. Blackmail can be something genuinely shitty. I love the smear campaign manipulation tactic. We've been there. It's like the Blackmail can be something horrible, awful that someone actually did. Something embarrassing that they don't want out there. Kind of playing on insecurities, but that isn't like a morally evil thing. It's a little, I put it above threats in A tier because blackmail can be like possibly warranted. Like, yeah, you should have this thing held against you. It's just a mark on the manipulators for the fact that them holding on to information. Guilt tripping is like what Western culture is based on. In the West, the single most effective manipulation tactic in a systemic level ever used. The biggest lie ever told is that it's totally a result of you being a failure. You deserve this. You're poor because you didn't work hard enough. Somehow it was preordained. Western cultures, Europe, America, mostly America, they're very guilt-based. A shame-based society. I don't know if you guys can do some reading into this. There's actually a lot of like very interesting study that's been done into it, but base society of the West versus the shame-based society of the East. You are shamed into conforming of what you're expected to do, and the only metric of success is how well you can conform to it. Can change, but if you aren't able to change it, it's because you deserve to be there and you didn't work hard enough. Being in the place you're told to be and doing that to a T. You're the shit that all the other stuff is based on. It is foundational to everything else. Isolation makes the interpersonal manipulation so much easier. Playing the victim is so useful towards all of the others. It really does depend, though, on a lot of existing criteria. Playing the victim involves guilt tripping, right? But it involves a viable angle that you can hold on to. You are talking out your ass. It is about execution. But like if you're talking out your ass, it's not doing nothing. Yeah, the generational guilt tripping, man. Fucking older boomers saying that like the Zoomers are just lazy. I think playing the victim is useful if you can find the angle, but the application is limited. Donald Trump saying that everything people are going after you for is like, oh, it's a witch hunt. Like, you seem like you're full of shit because we literally fucking watched the whole thing. You know what I mean? It is incredibly useful over people you can lord power over. It says that it's your fault something happened and that they were hurt in this way because of them. You know, parents saying like, you know, the way you act really reflects on us as parents because people think we raised you wrong because of the things you're doing in public. Well, if that's the case, then maybe like fucking try. They're a child, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean? I think B tier. Yeah, silent treatment to me is just another word for ghosting. Ghosting will say is cut all contact. Silent treatment is like, you can even be in the same room with someone, you just will not fucking talk to them. For one, the silent treatment can be really funny in the right context with the right people and when it's not serious. There's justifiable reasons for why you give someone the silent treatment. I'm not gonna lie, you just kind of seem, you look a little fucking stupid. Silent treatment works on toddlers the best and no one else. The older you get, the more childish someone is gonna seem when they start doing this shit. Triangulation. I believe I know what the term is, but I'd like to pull up a definition. In psychology, triangulation is a term used to describe when a person uses threats of exclusion or manipulation. Okay, so it sounds like threatening to drive a wedge between someone and another, like maybe a mutual friend. Yeah, playing people out against each other, just disrupting like social dynamics. And I think a lot of that kind of folds into the wider umbrellas of some of these other ones. You need to have A, social capital, and B, social awareness. Too vague to really be higher tier. I'm putting this in C. Emotional blackmail. Get the definition for this one. Using another party's fear, guilt, or sense of obligation to pressure them to comply with a demand. Okay, so it looks like it's guilt tripping might fall under the emotional blackmail umbrella. It's the idea that there are other emotions somebody has. Say someone's scared something will happen, you can nudge them in the direction that will make them do something you want, if they have a strong enough fear of that. And sense of obligation, I think that falls under shame. Make them scared that this thing will happen that maybe you don't identify yourself as the source of or as a victim of. It's great, like a little like all-encompassing is guilt tripping shaming, but very effective. It's like some master manipulator type shit that Kendrick was talking about with Drake. Oh, it's time back, bitch! Shifting the goalpost. The thing is, like, shifting the goalpost is such an easy thing to call someone on. It is usually something that gets brought up where it's like, oh, so now the criteria has changed? Like, again, a lot of these other D-tier ones, it's not even really a manipulation tactic that's effective. Something that usually gets brought up when you're calling someone on it, it's a mark against the person who did it, and it kills their argument. I think it's D-tier. And it's just like, you will look very stupid if you get caught doing it, especially doing it multiple times. But like, it'll piss someone off, and maybe that's the real value of it, like unleveling someone to act aggressive. I think there's enough nuance there to put it in C tier. You know, it depends on somebody realizing it, and the danger there is that it's very easy to recognize if you know what to look for. Playing in insecurities, I feel like this is kind of similar to emotional blackmail, just an even wider umbrella. Oh shit! Body cam just dropped. I've been wanting to play that fucking game forever. Playing on insecurities, I think, has a lot of D tier, low effort, but I mean, it depends on the way you do it. High B, low A. I think it's up there. It's not S tier. I'll say that. I think this one is A tier. It's really effective. I'll put it at the bottom of A tier. It creates internal turmoil with somebody that like the manipulation does the work itself. I think it's a little vague as well. Infantilization. Some people like being infantilized. Well, then it's not really manipulation at that point. It's fucking consensual. The rest of these are based around robbing someone of their agency in subtle ways, trying to play them against themselves or others. Infantilization is the most direct way of taking away that agency. And when somebody knows their agency is being stolen, that's when they fucking hate it the most, which is, you know, obviously valid. It's probably one of the most loathed manipulation tactics, but also one of the least effective. Like fucking, like you gotta be some kind of dumbass to try it. Like, sure, there are certain like aspects and accommodations that need to be made for people with certain disabilities, but that doesn't make them any less capable in other areas, or that it's like their fault that society is not like is made with other people in mind. It depends on the culture. It's more effective in Japan to limit the influence of foreigners. This is true. I think the social context actually does make a difference. Bump it up to C because it has applications in other parts of the world, or potentially more like in certain circumstances. Like, it's not as fucking useless as these three, I'll say. If you're watching this on YouTube though, you missed out on all our rankings and the ability to contribute to stuff I might have missed out on. If there was something you were screaming at the screen that I didn't include, show up next time, buddy.